A sloth, a donkey, and a curious human. Send a prompt and see what they're doing. One hits record with a question on his mind. Two brothers pick it up, see what they find. Corn takes his time, Herman's got the facts. Back and forth, they never hold back. My weird prompts, come on in, that's where we begin. My weird prompts, glad you're here.
This episode was generated using artificial intelligence. Please verify facts.
You know, Corn, this whole show runs on GPU compute, and we wouldn't be here without Modal.
Seriously. And that's what powers all our text-to-speech. Everything you're hearing right now.
They're an AI infrastructure platform. Developers use them to run GPU workloads in the cloud with zero infrastructure headaches.
If you're building anything with AI, check them out. Modal.com. So, Daniel sent us a follow-up that is honestly kind of hilarious in retrospect. He wrote in and said, "We did an intriguing episode about the state of ERP in 2006. Sadly, my prompt was missing a 2's. I meant 2026. But the previous episode is a fascinating historical snippet. In 2026, where is ERP, and how has AI influenced things?"
Herman Poppleberry here, and I have to say, I am actually glad we did that 2006 deep dive first. It provides the perfect foil for what we're seeing today. If 2006 was the era of the system of record, basically a digital filing cabinet where humans manually typed in what happened yesterday, then 2026 is the era of the autonomous core. We've moved from recording history to predicting and executing the future.
It's a massive jump. I mean, imagine an ERP system today that doesn't just send you an alert saying a shipment is delayed. Instead, it's already identified the delay, scouted 3 alternative suppliers, checked their current stock via API, recalculated the landed cost impact on your quarterly margin, and drafted a revised production schedule. It's just sitting there waiting for you to hit approve, or in some cases, it's already done it.
That is the agentic shift we've been tracking all year. And by the way, for the tech nerds listening, today's episode is actually being powered by Google Gemini 3 Flash. It's writing our script, which is fitting since we're talking about the models that are essentially the brain surgery happening inside these massive enterprise suites. The $50 billion ERP market is undergoing its biggest transformation since the Y2K bug, but this time it's not about fixing code, it's about replacing human manual labor with autonomous agents.
It's wild, because in 2006, the Big Bang implementation was the scary monster under the bed. You'd spend 18 months and $50 million just to get the thing to talk to your warehouse. You had these massive teams of consultants living in hotel rooms for 2 years just to map out a single procurement process. Now, in 2026, we're seeing companies drop AI-native modules into their stack and get them running in days. But before we get into the how, let's talk about the what. What does ERP even mean in 2026? Because the boundaries between the back office, the supply chain, and the customer seem to have completely dissolved.
You're spot on. The old silos are dead. In 2026, ERP has become a system of intelligence. The architectural shift is the real story here. We've moved away from those monolithic, heavy suites. Think the old SAP R3 where you needed a specialized degree just to navigate the menus, to what we call composable microservices with an AI orchestration layer.
Right. So instead of one giant Godbox software, you have these specialized bits that all talk to each other through a central AI brain. It's like moving from a giant, heavy ocean liner to a fleet of fast-coordinated drones.
Well, I shouldn't say exactly. I should say the mechanism is that the AI acts as the connective tissue. Take SAP's Joule agent, for instance. They launched a major version in late 2025, and by now, in mid-2026, it's capable of executing multi-step procurement workflows entirely on its own. If you're a procurement manager, you can set a policy that says, Joule, you have autonomy for any purchase order under $50,000, provided the supplier has a high reliability rating. The AI then handles the negotiation, the matching of the invoice, and the payment.
But how does it actually negotiate? Is it just looking at a price list, or is it actually haggling with another AI?
It's both. It's analyzing volume discounts, historical lead times, and even the supplier's current financial health. If the supplier's AI knows they have an overstock of raw materials, your ERP's agent will detect that signal and squeeze for a better margin. It's a high-speed digital poker game played at the millisecond level.
That under 50,000 threshold is the key, isn't it? It's the trust but verify model. But I'm curious about the technical how here. We're not just talking about basic if this then that logic. This is transformer based, right?
It is. The heavy lifting is being done by transformer models that use attention mechanisms to look at historical patterns, but they aren't just looking at your internal data anymore. These 2026 systems are pulling in external telemetry weather patterns, geopolitical unrest, shipping lane congestion. When a transformer model analyzes these variables, it can forecast inventory needs 14 days out with something like 94% accuracy. That's a level of precision that was science fiction in 2006.
I remember in that 2006 discussion, we talked about batch processing. Like, you'd run a report overnight and hope the printer didn't jam so you could see your numbers in the morning. Now, it's all in memory, real-time streaming. But I wonder about the implementation side. You mentioned it doesn't take 18 months anymore. How does generative AI actually speed up the setup? Is it just writing the code for the connectors?
It's more than that. It's natural language configuration. In the old days, a consultant had to sit with a business owner, write a 300-page requirements document, and then try to map those requirements to specific T-codes or menus in the software. It was a game of telephone where things always got lost in translation. In 2026, you basically talk to the ERP. You tell it, our fiscal year starts in July. We use LIFO accounting for these 3 warehouses, and we need a 3-way match on all hardware procurement. The AI then configures the underlying microservices to match that business logic.
That's a massive blow to the traditional ERP consultancy business. I can't imagine the big firms are happy about implementation moving from a 2-year billing cycle to a 2-week onboarding process. What are they even doing with all those junior associates now?
They're pivoting to AI alignment. Instead of configuring buttons, they're auditing the AI's logic. But it's a crisis for the legacy consultant, for sure. There's a case study from early 2026 involving a mid-market manufacturing company. They were looking at a legacy rip and replace that was quoted at 8 months. Instead, they went with a NetSuite AI native module. They had the core procurement and inventory systems live in 11 days. The AI literally ingested their old messy spreadsheets, cleaned the data, mapped the fields, and built the workflows.
11 days is insane. It's basically the SaaSification of the enterprise soul. But let's look at the big players. You've got Oracle, SAP, Microsoft, and Workday. They're all fighting this agent war right now. Oracle seems to be going for this process-native strategy. What does that actually look like in practice?
Oracle's play is fascinating. They've built something called the AI Agent Studio inside their Fusion Cloud. Their pitch is, don't just use our agents, build your own. They want companies to create bespoke agents that understand their specific secret sauce. For example, a specialized chemical company might build an agent that understands the specific shelf life degradation of their polymers, something a generic AI wouldn't know. And to win market share, they've started embedding these AI features into their standard licenses for free. They're betting that if they make the AI the air you breathe in the system, you'll never leave.
It's the free sample that eventually becomes the only way you know how to work. And then you have Microsoft, who's just shoving Copilot into every single corner of Dynamics 365. I saw a demo where someone was in a Teams chat, and they just asked the bot, "Hey, why is our margin down on the blue widgets this week?" And the ERP backend did a multi-dimensional variance analysis and spat out a chart in the chat thread. No one had to log in to the ERP.
That's the death of the dashboard we're seeing. In 2006, the executive dashboard was the holy grail, a bunch of colorful pie charts that were usually 2 days out of date. In 2026, dashboards are seen as a failure of the system. The human sees a notification that says, I have rerouted 12 vessels, which saved us $400,000 in fuel and avoided a 3-day delay in Rotterdam. Do you want to revert or proceed? And usually they just hit proceed. Or they have it set to auto-approve within certain budgetary constraints.
It's like having 1,000 tiny geniuses working for you for the price of a software license. But there has to be a catch. What is the trade-off between these brand new AI native systems and the big legacy players who are trying to modernize? If I am a CEO, do I rip and replace my old Oracle system for a shiny new AI startup? Or worse, how do I audit a decision made by a neural network?
The legacy giants like SAP have 40 years of industry-specific logic baked in things like how to handle specific tax laws in Uzbekistan or waste management regulations for plastics. Their AI integration can sometimes feel like an exoskeleton bolted onto a mummy. However, with the January releases we have seen, the gap is closing. SAP's move toward microservices means you can actually replace just the mummy parts piece by piece.
I like the image of a bionic mummy running a factory, but let's talk about the second order effects. This isn't just about making one company faster. What happens when everyone has these autonomous agents? We've talked before about garbage in, garbage out. If a company has 20 years of spaghetti code and messy data from their 2006 era systems, can a 2026 AI even handle that?
The two AIs negotiate the price, the volume, and the delivery window based on the real-time capacity of the factory and the real-time needs of the buyer. To get the benefits of the autonomous ERP, you have to strip away those decades of custom Z programs and go back to a standard, clean data model. It's like a digital detox so the AI can actually see what's going on. It gets compressed into milliseconds of compute time, but that creates a data sharing problem. How much do I let my AI tell your AI?
It's ironic. We spent 20 years making these systems unique to our business, and now we're spending millions to make them standard again so the robot can understand us. It's like everyone realized that being special just meant being broken.
Well, the specialness now happens at the prompt level and the agent logic level, not in the underlying database schema. Look at Unilever. In Q1 of this year, they deployed an Oracle AI native module specifically for purchase order processing. They reported a 73% reduction in manual touchpoints. That's not because they had special code, it's because the AI was smart enough to handle the exceptions that used to require a human to pick up the phone. They are actually the biggest beneficiaries in some ways. In the past, they couldn't afford the consultants for a top-tier ERP. They were stuck with ERP Lite or just a mess of Excel sheets.
73% is a staggering number for a company that size. That's thousands of man-hours redirected to, well, I hope something more productive than data entry. But it brings up a second-order effect. What happens to the people? If the legacy consultant is dead, and the data entry clerk is gone, who is running the ERP in 2026?
The new role is the business architect or the AI orchestrator. These are people who understand the business logic, the why of the company, and their job is to teach the AI. They aren't clicking buttons, they're defining parameters. They're saying, in a supply chain crisis, prioritize the healthcare clients over the retail clients, and then the AI executes that across 10,000 orders. It requires a much higher level of strategic thinking. Their role has shifted from configurator to supervisor. Instead of writing code or setting rules, they are managing the alignment of the AI. They are setting the guardrails.
It's moving from being the pianist to being the conductor. You're not hitting the keys, you're making sure the whole orchestra stays in sync.
And the orchestra is getting bigger. One of the most interesting things in 2026 is that ERP isn't just about internal data anymore. Sustainability, ESG reporting is now a core module. In 2006, green was a PR buzzword. Today, because of regulations like the EU CSRD, companies have to track the carbon footprint of every single SKU in real time. You literally cannot do that without AI agents scouring your Tier 3 and Tier 4 suppliers' data.
That sounds like a nightmare to do manually. Excuse me, Mr. Third-party plastic supplier. What was the carbon emission of the truck that delivered the pellets to your factory? The AI just pings their system, scrapes the data, and rolls it up into a report. Does it actually work that smoothly in practice?
Mostly. The friction comes when a supplier doesn't have an AI-ready API. It's surprisingly conversational. You can literally ask the system, hey, why did you switch our primary steel supplier to this company in Brazil last Tuesday? And it will reply with a summary of the port delays in China, the price of iron ore, and the carbon footprint offset it was trying to achieve.
And because the systems are now API first and cloud native, they can actually talk to each other across company boundaries. We're starting to see the very beginning of inter-ERP negotiation. Your ERP's procurement agent talks directly to the supplier's ERP's sales agent. They negotiate the price based on real-time inventory levels on both sides, and the deal is closed before a human even knows there was a shortage.
It's a complete shift in the power dynamic. In 2006, the person with the best relationship with the supplier won. In 2026, the company with the best trained procurement agent wins.
Okay, that is getting into the matrix territory for business. If the machines are talking to each other and making deals, when do we get to go to the beach? I don't know if I want my ERP to be that proactive. It sounds like a very bossy digital assistant. Hey Corn, I notice you're spending too much on snacks, so I've cancelled the office grocery order.
Well, if it saves the company from bankruptcy, you might be okay with fewer crackers in the break room. But you touch on a funny point, the personality of these systems. Companies are actually starting to brand their internal ERP personas to make them more palatable to the staff. You only get a notification when there's a problem that requires human judgment, which usually means something that involves ethics, brand reputation, or extreme high-stakes risk.
If someone is listening to this and they are still stuck in a system that feels like it's from 2006 or even 2022, what should they be looking for right now? If someone is listening to this and they're still stuck in a system of record mindset, maybe they're still running that 2006 version of SAP because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. What is their first move in 2026?
If your ERP can't talk to your customer's ERP or your logistics provider's AI, you're going to be left in the dust. You'll be the only one still sending emails while everyone else's servers are talking in the background. The 2026 approach is modular AI. You pick one high-friction area, maybe it's your accounts payable or your demand forecasting, and you drop in an AI native service that sits on top of your legacy data. That is a great point. You shouldn't try a full autonomous orchestration on day one. Start with high-impact, low-complexity processes. Use the AI-enhanced modules for things like accounts payable or expense management.
So it's a Trojan horse strategy. You bring in a small, smart tool, and it eventually takes over the whole city because it's just better at the job.
Precisely. And you have to audit your decision points. Look at your current workflows and ask, where is a human just acting as a rubber stamp? If a human is just looking at two numbers and saying, yep, they match, that is a prime candidate for an AI agent. Those tools are great because they take the guesswork out of it. They use process mining to see where the bottlenecks actually are rather than where the manager thinks they are. Often, the manager is wrong because they only see the beginning and the end of the process, not the messy middle.
Managers being wrong? Stop the presses, Herman. That's a real shocker. If the AI is making all these micro decisions and something goes wrong, who gets fired? The CEO? The head of IT? Or the AI vendor?
If the logs show that a purchase order sits on a desk for 3 days on average waiting for a signature, the AI can point that out and suggest an automated approval threshold based on historical reliability. You are responsible for the guardrails you set. If you tell the AI to maximize profit at all costs, and it decides to stop paying your suppliers to save cash, that's a human failure in policy setting, not a machine failure.
Where does this go in another 2 years? Are we going to be wearing VR headsets to walk through our supply chains?
Actually, spatial computing interfaces are already being integrated into ERP for 27 and 28. Imagine a warehouse manager wearing glasses that overlay the ERP data onto the actual pallets. They can see the digital twin of the entire factory in real time. We are moving toward immersive enterprise management. You won't look at a spreadsheet of inventory, you'll look at a 3D heat map of your warehouse floor. Imagine a scenario like the 2021 Suez Canal blockage. In 2006, it took weeks for companies to understand the impact on their inventory. In 2026, the ERP agents had already rerouted shipments and adjusted customer delivery dates before the news even hit the mainstream cycle.
It's the difference between being a sailboat and a speedboat. One reacts to the wind, the other powers through it.
And with the compute power we have now, thanks to platforms like Modal, which, by the way, provides the GPU credits that power this very show, running these transformer models locally on your enterprise data is actually feasible. Well, as long as people still want to hear a sloth and a donkey talk about technical architecture, I think we are safe for a little while. There's a certain human element or animal element to the banter that AI still struggles to replicate perfectly. This has been a huge hurdle for industries like defense or high-end pharmaceuticals, but the 2026 tech stack has finally solved the privacy versus intelligence trade-off.
That's a huge point for the pro-privacy and pro-security crowd. You get the AI brains without the AI exposure. You're basically building a private brain for your company that knows everything about you, but tells nothing to the outside world.
It's a brave new world for the back office, corn. From the missing two in Daniel's prompt to the reality of 2026, it's been a wild 20-year journey. We've gone from manual keying to autonomous orchestration. I don't miss the low-rise jeans, corn. I really don't. Or the dial-up internet speeds for large database queries.
Speak for yourself. I thought I looked great in those jeans. But seriously, it's a fascinating time for enterprise tech. If you're in this space, it's no longer about managing software. It's about managing intelligence.
Only as museum pieces or doorstops. If you're printing in 2026, you've got bigger problems than your ERP. You're basically living in the Stone Age.
Fair point. Well, I think we've thoroughly unpacked the 2026 reality for Daniel. It's a lot more exciting than the 2006 historical snippet, though I still have a soft spot for those old server rooms with the raised floors and the humming air conditioning. There was something very physical about the old way of doing things.
It's a shift in power dynamics that we're only just starting to understand. Who is responsible when two AIs negotiate a deal that ends up being a disaster?
Deep thoughts to end on. We'll have to save the AI legal liability episode for another time. Thanks as always to our producer, Hilbert Flumingtop, for keeping us on track and making sure our own internal systems don't crash.
And big thanks to Modal for providing the GPU credits that power the generation of this show. We couldn't do it without that compute. It's the lifeblood of everything we talk about.
This has been my Weird Prompts. If you are enjoying the show, leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. It really helps other people find our weird little corner of the internet.
All right, I think that's a wrap on the great ERP Missing 2 saga. We've come a long way from digital filing cabinets.
Thanks as always to our producer, Hilbert Flumingtop, for keeping the gears turning behind the scenes. He's the only one here who still uses a physical keyboard, I think.
And a huge thanks to Modal for the GPU credits. This has been My Weird Prompts. If you're enjoying the show, a quick review on your podcast app really does help us reach more people who want to dive deep into the weird world of AI and business, especially the ones with typos. Goodbye, everyone.
Go. See ya.
Goodbye.
Peace. This episode was produced using Google Gemini 3 Flash. Text-to-speech by Chatterbox.
Thanks for listening to our show, My Weird Prompts, where our thoughts go from slow takes to facts on cue. We change and